Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today what we're going to be doing is getting back under the skin of the Kia. It's been a little while since I did a video on the Kia. What we're going to do in this video is carry out a shock absorber spring replacement. All four springs were an advisory on the MOT for corrosion, so we're going to replace all four springs. And the other thing we're going to do is replace both the rear flexible brake pipes that go down to the calipers. The brake pipes themselves were again a advisory on the MOT. So hopefully we'll change all of that out, and it'll all be good for its next one. Thanks for coming along. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so here we are. Car's up on stands with the wheel off. And here's the shock absorber, and this is the spring we're going to replace. The shock's in fine fettle, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not blown, it's not leaking. It's just the spring was picked up as an advisory for corrosion. To be perfectly honest, it doesn't actually look that bad. If I'm being honest, I don't know. However, I'm not an MOT tester, so what I'll do, we'll change it out. To get the shock off, we need to disconnect the top mount for the anti-roll bar drop link, and then the two bolts here at the bottom. It's just a nut there, and then the bottom of the shock will come away from the hub carrier. And then what we'll do is we have to get in amongst this under here for the top mount, but we'll come on to that once we've done everything we need to do under here. So that nut, these two nuts, and then we'll see where we are. All right then. I think what we'll do is see if I can buzz them off with my impact gun. Save me a bit of time. That's loosened them. There we go, that made light work of them. That's one out. Get a little mallet and just give that a little tap, I think. There we go, that's those two out. $14 by the looks of it, 14. Yeah. Alright then, let's see if this will come off without twisting. Oops, banging my camera on the car. Yeah, it's turning behind. Right, let's see. Okay, that one's been a bit of a swine. It doesn't want to come off, so what we'll do, we'll try the bottom one, see if we have any more luck. Okay, that seems a bit more. That one seems a bit more forthcoming. Okay, so the bottom of the shock's now removed from the hub carrier, and I removed the lower joint for the anti-roll bar because that one did not want to come out. It was just spinning and there's not enough room to get in there. I managed to get this one out using a pair of thin-nosed grips on the inside, and I managed to just about get the nut off. What I'll do is I'll give the threads a good clean up before I put it back together, and then hopefully it'll go back together without any trouble. The only other thing that I need to do now is to disconnect this little bracket which holds the ABS sensor. It's only a little 10mm bolt. Tiny little bolt. Let's do that to one side. And there we go, that's that removed. So that is everything that we need to remove from the bottom of the car. So now what we need to do is go up under the bonnet and have a look at what we need to remove up there. Okay, you can probably just about make out the top of the shock under there. What we're going to do is remove this panel. And as you can see, there's a nice collection of stuff. Right then, with that little the little cap removed, we've got access, you can see inside there, to the 17mm nut on the top, which we can buzz off, just like so. There is the shock removed. Now the top mounts on these are a little bit different to most, because what you would normally have is the top mount where it bolts to the carb with three studs and nuts, but it's literally held in with a weird rubber mount which sits inside the underneath the bonnet, with the bolt on top holding the whole assembly to the bottom of the car. So this is like a lower top mount, I suppose you could say. There's another top mount which goes on the top, sandwiching the panel under the bonnet in between the two. That is the nut that holds the whole assembly together. So what we need to do next, move that out of the way, is compress the spring, and then we can get that nut off. So that's what we'll do next. Okay, so before we can undo this top nut, because it's under tension with this spring on it, what we need to do is take the pressure off the spring, well, take the pressure off the top mount by compressing the spring, then we can undo the nut, and then the whole thing won't fly apart on us, which in quite a dangerous fashion. So what I need to do is use these spring compressors. You can get some bit more industrial ones than these, you know, like the kind of things that a full-blown garage would use, but they're quite expensive, and the amount of times I actually carry out a spring change isn't often enough to justify the cost. So I settle for these kind. So get them as far apart as you can. Okay, so what we need to do using the ratchet is simply tighten them until the spring is compressed enough that it's not putting any pressure on the top mount. So do each side a little bit at a time, evenly. It'll take a little while, so you need to have a bit of patience with this job. Basically, you'll know when there's no tension on it because you'll see this top coil here will come away from this rubber, and when it's like that, you know you've done it enough. So what I'll do, I'll wind these up. It'll take probably about 10 minutes to get them where I want them to go, and then we'll come back to you. See you in a sec. Right then, so I've wound them up quite a bit. Now as you can see, I can move the spring around, so there's no tension on the top mount whatsoever. So what I need to do next is get this nut off. So what I'm going to do is use my impact gun, and hopefully that'll wind it off. If not, then what I'll have to do is hold that and try and undo the nut as well, but that can be a bit of a pain, so hopefully it'll come off fine. Oop. Yep, and it did. Perfect. Clip that off. And there's the top mount plate with the rubber. Keep it all together, keep it in order like that, and you won't go wrong. And there we go. So yeah, shock absorber's okay, it's in fine fettle, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So we can keep that to one side. And next, what I need to do is release the clamps off of this spring, and then get one of the new springs on, and then assemble it all back together again, obviously in the reverse order. So what I'll do, I'll wind these off, and then I'll get them on the new spring, and then I'll bring you back in for the reassembly. Okay, so I've got the new spring all compressed. All I've got to do now is mount it onto the shock, making sure that the end of the spring sits in its recess and the bottom of the shock absorber. Okay, then we grab all the components we need to put back on, and again the end of the spring into that recess, like so. Then the washer, then the top mount. Again, it's D-shaped, so we need to make sure it's orientated correctly. Then we can get the nut on, and what I'll do, I will use my impact gun to wind it down. And there we go. That, just make sure everything's still aligned. Yeah, that's all good. That's all good. All I've got to do now is release the spring clamps, and then we're good to go. So this is going to take me a little while, so come back to me when I've got them off. See you in a sec. That's one. And two. And there we are, that's the shock absorber all reassembled. All we've got to do now is get them back on the car. Okay then, so that's the shock absorber all rebuilt. I've removed the drop link off of there because with the other one being unserviceable on the other side, I'm going to replace them as a pair. So I took the old one off, and then when I get the new parts, I will replace them. But I'll include them on this episode. It shouldn't take too long to get those. Right then, in order to fit it back to the car, what we need to do first is we need to mount it at the top using the nut and the top mount just underneath the bonnet. So that's what we'll do first. We'll get that we'll get it mounted up in the car, and then we'll look at the what we're going to do down here. Okay then, so we've got the top mount, we've got the nut. What we need to do is feed the shock absorber up so that it's mounts through the hole like so. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, hopefully you can. We'll pop the mounting plate through. I need to be able to see underneath. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. It's popped through. Then I need to just get the nut on, like so, and just get it what I need to do is just get it started a couple of threads. There we are. So it's now hanging and it's in the right orientation. So what we need to do next, get the gun on, okay, right, I'll come back to that in a second. What I want to do first is mount the bolts. There we are, so you can see now I'm not looking at the wing of the car. Okay, just want to, there we go, just like so, mount the bolts. Get these nuts on. Okay, and there we are. Right, now I can buzz that down. Happy days. And there we go. That's then mounted. Now just this little bracket for the cable. There we go. That's all assembled. Job's a good one. Right. Other things I need to do here is obviously replace the anti-roll drop links, like I said. On the other side, I'm going to replace that track rod end, and also I'm going to replace the brake pads because they're wearing thin. So yeah, they need a bit of attention. Other than that, though, shock absorber all done.